let's spend a few cozy autumn days together. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Angela. I'm an American living in London. I recently moved here in February of this year, and I share what it's like to live in London, my experience moving abroad, as well as my hobbies. I am super into running. I'm training for a marathon right now, and I also love to read and write. I am working on a fantasy novel, a romantasy novel, and this morning I wrote on it and I hit 50,000 words, which is just so exciting. I have another fantasy novel that is really far through edits and has been with beta readers, but I'm working on this new project while trying to query that one just to kind of distract myself from what happens with querying, and because the writing part of the process is the part that I really love. I also really love like the editing part of the process, but the process of like trying to get it out there into the world stresses me out. So it's good to kind of like have a de-stressor and be able to write something new. I also love just exploring fun places in London, going to new bookstores and coffee shops and museums. So there's a ton of that also on this channel. So if you just love the kind of like literary London vibes, you're probably going to like it around here. But right now we have to get into work for the day. So let's do that and I'll check in with you all later. It is now a little bit later. I just finished work for the day. It was such a great day because one time a month I get to finish off my work day watching New Girl and doing invoices. Invoices is probably my least favorite part of my work. So because I run my own business, I have to do like invoices and a lot of financial stuff. So watching New Girl while doing it just makes it so much more enjoyable. And that's kind of like a life hack, is if you have some like boring administrative tasks that you have to do pretty routinely, add something fun to it, like watching a TV show or watching YouTube to make it more fun. Another thing I love is that I work from home, and so I was actually able to get a run in, and the run was so beautiful. I think I got a little bit of footage of it. I'm a little bit disappointed because the leaves are changing, but they're changing quite slowly and not as like pronounced as what I was used to in the US. So we'll see as like autumn continues if the leaves change more than they are right now. But I think now I'm just going to read. So I have two books that I'm reading right now, and both of them are absolutely amazing. Like the joy that I feel when I have two good books that I'm reading at the same time. If you're new here, I always have an audiobook going and like a physical book or an ebook going. So my audiobook right now is called Shield of Sparrows. It is a romantasy novel that just is full of hot gossip. It is such a good time. I think it recently came out this year. I honestly got it because it was just available at my library and none of my other holds were available, but I'm so glad I picked it up, and I'm surprised I haven't heard more about it because it is a really good romantasy. Like if you like ACOTAR Fourth Wing type of books, you will definitely like this one, at least so far. I'm only about 50% into it. And then my physical book right now is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. A moment for this spine, but this is a 1980s book about astronauts who are going up to like the space shuttle and then something goes wrong. I wasn't too enamored with the premise, but I love Taylor Jenkins Reid, so I gave it a shot just because she's an auto-buy author for me. And I will say this is probably the most invested I've ever been in anything related to like space and space travel. So far at least it's definitely really good, but I don't know if you can see my bookmark. I don't think you really can, but I'm about this far into it and have this much left to read, so we still have a good amount to go. It is now Thursday. The last time we talked was Monday, and I'm gonna be so honest, I just had a really stressful couple of days with like my day job, and I just wasn't in the right headspace to be filming I don't really know how else to describe it. I think we all kind of get that way sometimes where it just feels like work is super overwhelming. It's a lot of the reason why I tend to film on the weekends and not during the week. But this week I just couldn't film on the weekends. Even though this video has kind of gotten derailed, I think this is a really good moment to remind you all and myself that sometimes you just have to kind of get back on track midweek and take some time to do the things that you really love. So that's what we're going to do today. I started work early so I could also finish work early and hopefully head to the bookstore in my area, as well as maybe some secondhand shops that have books, in order to just kind of like have a self-care afternoon. I'm also thinking I might go to Starbucks because I have a Starbucks gift card and get a pumpkin spice latte because it is autumn and I have yet to have one. But before we go book shopping, I really want to make sure that I am intentional when I buy books. So there's a couple of things that I'm really looking for. When it comes to used book shopping, I am looking for books that I really wanted to read but just don't have yet, that are maybe a little bit older. The one series that I am very motivated to try to find is the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. Since the books have been out for at least 20 years, I think, I feel like it should be slightly easier to find them in secondhand stores. I have only found so far the 4th book, and the 3rd book just came in on my Libby app, so I can read it on my Kindle. But I still would really love to own the first 3 books in that series and then hopefully get more books. Mistborn, if you guys don't know, is kind of like a high fantasy series. I think it's a really great option for those who like fantasy, want to dive like further into fantasy and less into romantasy, if that makes sense. And then the other thing I want to do, which I have my phone out because on my Notion board, I have a Notion board that's called Reads, and on it I write different book series that I'm in the middle of, books that I own but haven't read yet. Just basically a tracker for lots of different categories. And one of the categories is 2025 releases. So I really want to get some of these 2025 releases because I'm not doing a great job of reading them. There's not a ton because this is a pretty curated list, but I thought it could be fun really quick before we go book shopping and to Starbucks to try to go through the books on this list and kind of point out which ones I've read, which ones I haven't read, as well as books that are still coming out later this year. In January, 3 books came out, and it was The Perfect Home by Dan Kevitz, I'm probably mispronouncing that. This book was a thriller. I really enjoyed it. I have read this book, and it was just a super unique thriller, not necessarily like a cookie cutter thriller that has all the tropes. And so I really appreciated how the writing was just super strong, and there was a lot of surprises and twists and turns that I didn't see coming and which are not as common within the thriller genre. The next one, of course, was Onyx Storm, the 3rd book in the Fourth Wing series, which I have read. And then the final one, which I haven't read and I'm a little ashamed about, is Iron and Embers by Helen Schurer. Helen Schurer wrote the Legends of Thesmar series, which was my absolute favorite series last year. I binged it from like September through November. And this is a series that's set in that same romantasy world. You're going to see on this list later on that the other 2 books in that series are also on here because she's kind of like fast releasing them. The last one comes out in November. So even though I'm kind of ashamed I haven't started the series yet, it might be a really good time because I'll be able to binge all 3 books super close together. In February, the only book that I was super excited about that was released was Rebel Witch, which is the sequel to Crimson Moth, and I think there's a different name. Heartless Hunter is the name in North America. I have the UK version of it. This is a really great fantasy duology. I've heard really great things about the 2nd book. I've been meaning to pick it up, I just haven't. The only book that was released in March that I was super excited about was actually a debut author or at least an author I've never read, and the book was called Blood Beneath the Snow. I'm pretty sure this was another romantasy. It looks kind of Russian or Eastern European. Honestly, at this point, I don't know a ton about this book, but if you read it, please comment what you think and if I should add it to my list. In April, Fearless came out, which is the 3rd installment in the Powerless series, which is a really fun romantasy series. And I have read it a couple months ago, and I still haven't recovered because I love those characters so much. And then as well in April, Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry came out, which I have on my shelf, but I have yet to read. And then the 3rd book that came out in April that I want to get to read that I haven't read yet, The Gods That Time Forgot. I saw this book on TikTok and I'm pretty sure the premise was like Greek gods in 1920s Ireland, I want to say. It was something like really unique and interesting, and so I just really wanted to read that book as well. Now I did a little bit better for June, so no books came out in July that I wanted to read. In June, Atmosphere came out, which is what I'm currently reading, and then Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston came out, which was a cutesy music-themed romance with some elements of magical realism in it. I love Ashley Poston, read that book, really enjoyed it, would highly recommend. July, I didn't do as well. So 4 books came out in July that I wanted to read. The first was The Jasad Crown, which is the sequel to The Jasad Heir, which was an enemies to lovers romantasy I read last year. Super unique and lush world, and just like the type of fantasy where you gotta travel to many different places in the world, which I really love, and I just really want to read the second book. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Thorns and Fire, which is the second book in the Ashes of Thesmar series. So that's that series I was talking about where all 3 books are coming out in 1 year. And then Immortal Consequences came out, which is a dark academia fantasy, and I have read that one. How to Lose a Lord in 10 Days also came out, which is by Sophie Irwin. Sophie Irwin is one of my favorite Regency romance authors. She does such a good job of mixing Jane Austen romance with modern day like feminism and humor, and so when I saw that she had a How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days set in the Regency era coming out, I knew I needed to read it. I just haven't gotten around to this one yet either, guys. And then earlier this month, Wild Irreverence came out by Rebecca Ross. Rebecca Ross, she's an auto-buy author. I honestly don't know a ton about this book, but I think it's gonna be another cozy fantasy, very folksy probably. And on September 23rd, which hasn't occurred yet when I'm filming this, but probably has occurred in your time when you're watching this, Love You Bunny came out, or comes out, depending on what time we're talking, and it is the sequel to Bunny by Mona Awad, which is one of my favorite lit fic novels. I'm also going to see Mona Awad talk about this book in October, so I'm super excited about that, and I think at the event it includes the book, so that is not one that I will buy. Silver and Smoke, which is the 3rd book in the Ashes of Thesmar series, comes out in November. And in December, on December 18th, We Who Will Die by Stacia Stark comes out. I read the A Kingdom This Cursed and Lonely series by her. I'm probably butchering that name. So many of these fantasy books have such similar names. It's always like a blank of blank and blank. It's such a common fantasy title setup. But enough talking about books, let's go book shopping. Let's just take off my glasses really quick. I absolutely love penguins. They're my favorite animal ever, and my partner's mom got me this little cute penguin glasses case, and I love it. Today now is Friday, and I'm supposed to be running 15 kilometers, and it is absolutely pouring right now. And I'm trying to decide if I go to the gym and run on a treadmill. I find treadmill running to be like torture, or if I try to do it outside. So I've just been procrastinating by doing work and checking the weather probably a bit too much. It's getting to that point like where we're getting into that dangerous zone of procrastination, if that makes sense. Like I really, after finishing up this video, need to get on the move when it comes to that. I thought it could be really fun, and also another great way to procrastinate, to come on here and just kind of give you a little reading and writing update from the week. I'm still reading Atmosphere. I'm so close to being done with Shield of Sparrows, and I actually think I'm going to listen to it on my run because this book has so many great plot twists. It definitely is a book, like I said earlier, that's just like full of gossip, so you really need to be just looking for like an entertaining read about super dysfunctional characters to enjoy it. And then with Atmosphere, I just really have not had enough time to read. Having so many issues, prioritizing reading in the evenings. I really don't even understand where the evenings go. I feel like I blink and it's time to go to sleep, and a lot of times I'm still at my computer working. So it's definitely an issue that I want to solve. If you have any tips, leave them down below. Maybe I'll create a video trying to like read for 30 minutes before bed every night. That could be like a fun challenge for the future. But when it comes to writing, I've been making really great progress. So you saw earlier this week I hit 50K on my new novel. Since then, I've just been spending about an hour a day on querying stuff and small little edits, because the small little things like grammar and sentence level changes, they just always exist. So I just go into my manuscript every once in a while and just kind of pick a set of chapters and read through them and then make any small changes I want to make. Again, right now it's really just about like making the language as strong as possible. I'm really not changing anything to the meaning. But now this weekend I'm hoping to go back to my other project, and that project I am stalled because I kind of have deviated from the outline, which was fine for a bit because I knew where I was going in that deviation, but now I'm kind of stuck. And so I actually really want to like replot the second half or so of the book. I'm such a discovery writer when it comes to my first drafts. I like going into it with an outline, but then I also like discover especially subplots along the way that are super interesting and juicy. So I discovered a couple of like juicy subplots that I now need to weave better into the actual outline. If you enjoyed just the chaos of this video, the raw look at what it's like to be a writer and a reader and someone who's balancing tons of hobbies on top of working full time, then I highly recommend subscribing, because that's basically what all my videos are. And I'm so grateful that you stayed and watched this video, and I'll see you in the next one.